Well, let's discuss this further now with James Dorsey. He's a senior fellow at the Middle East Institute, and he joins us now from Singapore. Really good to have you back with us, James. We know that the US had al Zawahiri in its sights ever since he took over from Osama bin Laden as Al-qaeda's leader back in 2011. So how significant is Zawahiri's killing for the United States?
I think this is more of symbolic value in terms of the threat posed by militants. Let's keep in mind that Al-Qaeda has not been able to stage a major operation in many years, certainly not since the killing in 2011 of Osama bin Laden, and has been overshadowed by, for example, the Islamic State. What I think it does do is serve domestic U.S. purposes. First of all, it is symbolically serving justice, but it also is, if you want, to a degree, proof of concept in terms of the Americans' ability to strike and to protect American lives from what they called over the horizon after the departure of U.S. troops from Afghanistan last August.
And under the Doha Agreement, we know that the Taliban agreed not to allow Al-Qaeda to operate in areas under its control. That currently is the whole of Afghanistan, but the two groups have been long-time allies. So do you believe that the Taliban was in fact aware of Zawahiri's presence in Kabul and was therefore harboring him?
Well, it's very hard to imagine that the Taliban would not have the degree of control in Kabul itself to know whether or not someone of the stature of Zawahiri would be present or not. On top of that, he apparently was residing in a house that is owned by a prominent Taliban leader. So it's very hard to imagine that they would not know. I think add to this that, of course, the Doha Agreement was not just Al-Qaeda, but it was militants in general. And you had a UN Security Council report issued last month, which essentially said that militant groups in Afghanistan were present and being allowed to operate from there. One major concern, for example, is the Turkestan Islamic Party, the militant Uyghur organization, which is of great concern to the Chinese. And of course, you have at the same time operations going on primarily by the Islamic State with rocket attacks and other attacks, not only inside Afghanistan, but also on Tajik and Uzbek territory.
Yes, and tell us more about the impact the killing of Zawahiri will have on Al-Qaeda, and more about the current state of the militant group. Is there an obvious successor to Zawahiri?
There's no obvious successor. I mean, I think that if based on a reading of the papers that were found in the compound in which Osama bin Laden was killed more than a decade ago, Al-Qaeda basically was no longer operational in the sense of being able to stage the kind of spectacular attacks they did with 9/11 and before that, ever since 9/11. And so obviously this is a blow to the group, but keep in mind again that Zawahiri was not a figure who was really capable of filling Osama bin Laden's shoes. He did not have the personality for it. He did not have the charisma for it. He simply is not that kind of character. And on top of that, he's obviously under a lot of stress and is believed to be very irritable, which made personal relationships, also more difficult.
Okay, James Dorsey from the Middle East Institute. We'll have to leave it there, but really good to get your analysis as always. Thanks for joining us.
Pleasure to be with you.